So AI could help us with developing foods or tweaking the flavors of products. I still think there's going to be a lot of people out there who say, though, that there needs to be that human element there, that tasting panels will in some way reflect more of a real view. But I guess the point is, with AI, you can look at much larger amounts of data than you can through getting people into a testing panel, right? Or a tasting panel, because you're dealing there with maybe a few hundred people versus with, looking at larger data. There's a greater chance, I guess, of being able to develop something that for mass markets works really well.
Well, let me, and first of all, for tasting panels, you also need to have experts that sometimes require to study for many years. Let me just give you one example with wine industry, for example. That a good friend of mine, he studied for 4 years for wine tasting. And but now we can measure the metabolic composition of the wine, for example, hundreds of molecules. We can get a profile of the wine, and we can use AI and machine learning techniques to differentiate which is a good one or not a good one from a molecular composition. So in the future, we can use these experts to train the system. And once you've trained the system, then you can take a new bottle of wine, get a molecular profile, and see whether it belongs.
So are we saying that we could completely get rid of wine and food critics and just replace them with AI? And maybe we could make better estimations of restaurants that people would like based on an AI machine learning machine going into a restaurant and analyzing the menu?
If it was only that simple, to be honest, I would have agreed with you. But as you mentioned, taste is also a perception. It's not only the composition and molecular composition of what you eat, but it's actually how it interacts with your body composition and the environment you are in. And sometimes you can have exactly the same food, but aesthetically it's different, or you're in a different company and you can perceive it differently. So if it was not that simple, but having said that, if you want to introduce some objective measures, then one way of doing it, it's using molecular phenotyping technologies, getting molecular profiles, and then...
Well, talk us through that. What's molecular profiling?
So molecular profiles, say if you take a wine sample, and now the modern technologies such as mass spectrometry or nuclear magnetic resonance spectrometry allows you to basically take the sample and in untargeted fashion measure hundreds of molecules of metabolites, for example, low molecular weights that are partially responsible for flavor.
Okay.
And based on the distribution of these molecules, that's how you get the color, you get the taste, once you can measure them and you have some metadata, for example, where the wine comes from, then you can find the patterns that would predict certain properties of, say, wine. But the same approach can be applied with any food. So you can, and in fact, as part of our own research, as you know, we are collaborating with the group from University of San Diego, Professor Peter Dorstein and Dr. Alexander Aksionov, who provided us about 2,500 samples of different foods and food samples that they measured using this analytical technology. And each of the sample contains measured a couple of thousands of molecules.
Okay.
And the amount of data generated is huge, actually. So then that would allow us to interrogate it and see how, for example, even different cooking methods would influence the molecular composition.
That would influence the nutritional value, that would influence the flavor, that would...
This is it.
Okay.